Hello Leo, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for March 2023. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me once more. If you're new to my channel, it's great to have you with me. Please comment. I interact with all comments. This is very much a community. But also please like and subscribe. I'm going to give you some standout features to look out for. I've got some very exciting news for you in terms of two sets of energies that are going to manifest in your sister fire sign of Aries, because that's very much to do with expansion. But of course Saturn, the planet of limitation, is trucking up in a new home from the 7th, and there's a full moon. What does that mean for you? But we also have the spring equinox, which is on the 20th, the start of the Western tropical astrological calendar. And that also is just after Mercury moves into Aries too. So with the new moon in Aries on the 21st, a lot of that fire energy, but also quite a lot going on in house 8. Pisces, water, very much what you share with others, where you're most deeply invested. So please stay with me for more. But if you would like to understand how your personal astrology is impacting on every day of your life, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data, of time, date and place of birth, I can produce your life roadmap report, which will help you to get a much more intimate understanding of those patterns, sometimes the challenging ones that keep coming up, but also helping you to seize opportunities more firmly. In my special package of 30% off, you can also get your 12-month forecast, again totally unique and personal to you. Please see the link beneath this video for more on that. So Leo, as you come into March, the Sun and Neptune are located in the sign of Pisces, which is house 8 for you. Very much about transitions, but this is a watery sign, an emotional sign. And sometimes, especially with Neptune at home in Pisces, what we think is the reality can prove to be rather elusive and misleading. So the arrival of Saturn on the 7th is actually going to push back on that and bring a little bit more substance and substantiveness to this part of your situation. But right at the start of the month, Mercury is aligning with Saturn in your opposite sign. You could have a very important conversation with someone in the first couple of days. It could be a financial matter, could be in terms of a personal issue, even around a close relationship. But because Jupiter and Venus are in a conjunction on the 2nd in Aries, those are the 2 planets of fortune. So something to do with expanding your world, but requires some kind of collaboration with someone else. But it's all got to be financed. That 8th house energy of Pisces sets the scene. But then Mercury moves on the 2nd, dives deep into Pisces. Now technically Mercury doesn't like this, it's in detriment, but for you this is an opportunity to think not about what you've just been told, however serious and sincere somebody may have been, but try to define what they really meant. And sometimes in life that's the subtext, because people say things that they don't necessarily share their feelings. But Mercury can be an asset for you. But also in week 1 through to the 6th anyway, that combination between Venus and Jupiter would be wonderful if you book a holiday, a vacation. It doesn't need to be one that you go on straight away, but Venus and Jupiter in the 9th house of travel, expansion, variety. It's a great time to perhaps take in a show or an exhibition or an art gallery, or just head off somewhere different for a few days. It would be really good for you. However, in week 2, Venus then goes on to forge a really positive angle to Mars, which has been in your sector of friendship since August, and has given you an opportunity to balance the side of you that needs to be an individual against the side of you that needs to collaborate. Now usually Mars isn't interested in collaboration, it's interested in getting what it wants for ourselves. It's the planet of ego and individual desire, but that has been modified somewhat. So Mars linking with Venus here suggests that if you do come together with some friends and go off and do something, even if it's to go and see a band or a team play, you know, whatever sport that you may follow, that can be something that can actually bring some real uplift to your spirits. But the full moon on the 7th, in a purely practical way, is asking you to balance the books. So if everyday finance is having too much impact on your longer term sense of security, that's what the full moon in Virgo asks you to grapple with the details to make some changes. But it's linking in a very providential way to Uranus in the part of your scope to do with how you connect with the wider world. So when it comes to your professional aims and goals, don't discount anything that's different. There is a part to most Leo people, even Leo people who identify as being quite different, might colour their hair in quite a dramatic way, wear quite loud clothes. Even Leo people like that can like a degree of regularity or have particular patterns of being that are quite set. So when I say conservative, I don't mean about how you necessarily have your political colours. I'm talking about your approach to situations can be quite entrenched. And what Uranus is saying when it comes to earning a living, the type of skills that you can deploy in the wider world, then don't limit your thinking. Be as open-minded as possible, because on the same day Saturn moves into your 8th house, and your longer term finances could feel limited unless you can grasp the opportunity to try different things. And that obviously, for someone who may like a degree of control, which I think can be true of your sign, or a degree of familiarity in routines, means trying something different. So try to push outside your comfort zone, because if you can, Saturn over the next couple of years can see you work extremely hard, but actually build up a real nest egg that could be very valuable to you. But I think some income stream that's been quite consistent for some while could tail down a little bit from Saturn moving into your 8th house. Now, of course, the 8th house isn't just about money. That's the practical, prosaic side of it. What about the emotional side of it? Well, the 8th house is about devotion. And of course, Saturn's been in your sector of relating for 2.5 years in total, in 2 portions with 3 retrogrades. So how is it going to play out? Is there a relationship you've been working so hard on? Is it making progress? Or is it staggering towards the door marked exit? And there needs to be a real sense of reality about where it's at. Only you can answer that question, because every Leo's experience will be completely different, because of course your individual natal chart makes you absolutely your own person. But we do get themes, and that's what these horoscopes are about. So I feel that Saturn could ask some questions. So for example, if you find it hard to get up close and personal, Saturn will ask you to understand why over the next couple of years. So you could go through some psychological deepening, you know, maybe talk to someone who has skills or knowledge or advice to offer, such as a counsellor. But equally, it could be that if you are wanting to start a new business or whatever, you're going to have to work jolly hard to get the results. But that doesn't mean to say you can't, because Saturn can reward. It may be that as it goes over the cusp and moves into Pisces, that something you have been working on in a partnership can give you some kind of payback. But it will have come after a lot of application, sweat, and determination. But what happens is that on the 15th, Mars emerges from its post-retrograde shadow. Energy picks up at one level, but is challenged at another by Neptune's dreamy, rather potentially draining energy. So we have the 11th and the 8th. If you're thinking of, you know, getting involved in something perhaps that's a bit more unique, but not very tangible. So It may be, to do with things like digital currencies and so on. Now, obviously, some people have made a lot of money, but I wouldn't be investing in anything without really having clear information. And Neptune can distort, so just watch that for a couple of weeks. You may go through a period where facts and figures seem very much other than clear. But on the 16th, Venus does move into a primary position. It moves right to the top of your scope, which can be very good to use your people skills, which are often very strong. Your charm, not in particular, and Venus could see you connect with someone quite influential. It also forges a brilliant link with Saturn for a few days that could see some kind of coming together, an understanding, a collaboration that works well, where you're both very realistic, but the personality side of it feels comfortable. It's just that through this period from the 14th to the 19th, Venus goes into a square with Pluto, and that's more challenging. If you're offered something at the heart of this month of partnership or financial nature, there could be some hidden leverage that's not obvious. So someone could say, well, look, this is what I'm offering you. It seems very tempting and very alluring, but there may be something you're not quite seeing because it's masked behind that persuasion, the power of Pluto, through the prism of the charm of Venus. Just watch out for that. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative, it could be. But also Venus squaring Pluto can be very much to do with sex, and maybe there is somebody, as Pluto moves into your 7th house, particularly if you're born right at the start of Leo, or ironically right at the end of Leo in a quincunx, who really does capture your imagination. So again, it's being very conscious of what your motives are and what the other side's motives are as well. But I think the arrival of Mercury into your sister fire sign of Aries on the 19th is going to be something you really can appreciate, because what Mercury brings is more speed. Communications that may have felt quite intense can just open up. Maybe you're going to have a frank discussion with someone which really clears the air. The spring equinox also ushers in Aries to the sign, the sun into Aries, but also ushers in the start of the Western tropical astrological calendar. And it's a new beginning for us all. It doesn't matter where you're located in the world, because essentially Western tropical astrology is a Greek construct. So this is the new beginning. So even if for you're down south and it's your autumn, it is a chance to think about our life afresh and to take initiatives. And the 9th house is very much about being more daring, independent, open-minded, spontaneous, thinking about how we can change things up. Some kind of international flavour may present itself, not just at the start of this month, but also at the end of the month too. But the new moon of the 21st, the first of two in Aries this year, the second is a solar eclipse on the 20th of April, this squares up with Mars that's really quite late in Gemini. Now, of course, Mars is just preparing to move into your 12th house on the 25th of this month. And then on the 23rd, when Pluto moves into your opposite sign, it's in a quincunx with Mars. So there's quite a lot of intense energy washing around here. Mars and Pluto are very much to do with desire in different ways, certainly motives. And then Mars's arrival in your 12th house at the 25th could see you in some ways become more connected to some past issues, and it could really surprise you. Don't be particularly surprised if over the following 6 weeks an issue from your past that you thought that you'd come to terms with actually starts to reactivate itself. Maybe it's someone that rejected you, maybe it's someone you lost, maybe it's a relationship that kind of didn't work out, but you're in some ways nostalgic and regretful for it. There may be sort of mixed messages washing around deep in your psyche that Mars can bring up and into the open, either through anger at times, sometimes through tears. But there is an absolutely magical alliance as the month comes to an end, as Mercury aligns with Jupiter in the sign of Aries. And of course, Jupiter is the ruler of the second decan of your zodiac sign. So if you're born between just over the 10th day of Leo through to the 19th and a bit day, then this can be a particularly helpful influence. But for all Leos, I feel that some good news from afar can come your way. Maybe you're going to hear from someone who just cheers you up. Maybe you're going to get together with some friends and go on an outing. Something really lovely. It could be completely spontaneous that occurs, but some good news can come up. But there is a seething mass of very intense energy washing around as well. And maybe the 9th house energy of Aries, which can be about higher truths, is going to make you much more conscious of what you identify with in terms of your higher philosophies. And if there is something around the way you connect to others, particularly through Pluto at this stage, where maybe you feel that you've given away a little bit of your power, there may be the freedom fight inside of your nature is going to come into the open, and you may find yourself being feistier and even being capable of upsetting your own personal celestial apple cart in order to make your views known. And so this can be driven in quite a subtle way by Mars being in the 12th house, but how you ventilate it might be full on with that 9th house frank Sagittarius type of energy, even though for you it's manifested through the fire of Aries. So this month, to recap, Leo, gives you enormous opportunities to break out in some ways, but I think there is quite a lot of need to be conscious of where you're most invested, anything to do with your financial situation, and perhaps being open to new ways of doing things professionally and not sabotaging potential opportunities because it's outside your sense of control or the familiarity that you do find so very comforting. This is very much a community, as I said before. Please feel very welcome to comment, like or subscribe. Thank you so much and goodbye.